And Game of Thrones comes to an end. The end of an era. The end of a franchise that I have followed since the beginning. Something that was so close to my heart for so long. It's so weird for it to be over now, but it is. And, you gotta say goodbye. So, I want to first start off by saying that if you're looking for a review that's going to hate on this episode in this season, you can find thousands of them on the internet. Just type in Game of Thrones, hit enter, and I guarantee you'll just find nothing but hatred all up and down. But if you're actually looking for somebody who actually loved this season and really enjoyed this episode, here I am, and I'm going to discuss it. Yes, I know, I'm one of the rare voices online that actually appreciated this season and all the hard work they actually put into it, despite what people think. But I want to say a couple things about that. I don't want it to seem like I'm dismissing anyone who didn't like the season or didn't like this episode or whatever. That is not the case here. Who I'm talking to are the people that went dramatically overboard. You see, the problem with most things is extremism. When you talk about most things, whether it be religion, politics, this and that, I can talk with those kinds of people when they're more centered, when they're more on a logical spectrum. But when it starts to get into the extremism, the extreme religious, the extreme left, the extreme right, the extremists, I can't deal with it. And there was a lot of extremists when it came to this season. And I get it. People were excited and this is a show they loved. Hey, there's very few people that love this show more than I do. I'm not going to say I love this show more than anybody because there are some fucking real hardcore diehard fans out there. But I'm very high up there on how much I love this show. But I have said before that I let the storytellers be storytellers. I don't expect anything from them. I don't expect, because if I sit here and I go, well, this is how I want Jon's story to end. This is how I want Daenerys to go. And if those things aren't delivered to me, I'm going to be upset about them. And that's just not a way to view things for me. I sit there and I hope for certain things, like, oh man, this would be cool if this goes this way. And if it goes a different way, then I accept that way. And if it's something I don't like, it's just something I don't like. I'm not going to fucking freak out about it. But that all being said, you got to take something into account like Dexter season 8, which I thought was just terrible. I think there's a lot of people who agree with me. I'd say for the most part, the majority, that was one of the worst endings for one of the best shows ever. I don't remember an uproar on the internet like this. Now, granted, it wasn't as popular and it was dwindling for a few seasons there for most people. But even with Dexter, I was annoyed, and I brought it up plenty of times in the past, being like, man, oh, what a terrible end of that show. But I never got to the point where I was like angry and wanted to go online and demand that they remake the season and bash it from every fucking chance I get. I just don't see the point in that. I guess people just want to feel outrage and they want to be heard so that they have their feelings acknowledged because they're hurt, they're angry. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit because this is the end. This is there. It's not something you can ignore. I posted recently on my Facebook that I'm glad Game of Thrones is over. That's how much this fan base has made me hate anything related to Game of Thrones outside of my enjoyment of the show. Like, all I have seen for weeks, and especially like after on Sundays, it's just you go through your feed on Facebook, on anything, and it is just pure hatred down the row. And then there's a couple people like me that are defending it and being like, what are you talking about, you fucking crazy people? I think this is great. But man, it's just like, you can't even get past it. You can't get around it. And it sucks because, you'll have friends that will hate on it and it's something that you enjoy talking about and they kind of fall to the dark side and they're fucking freaking out and you're just like, you can't even talk to them. They're so irrational. I'm glad that I have a group of friends. I have a chat thread And all of them, even if some of them don't really care for the season, they're rational about it and we can actually discuss it, which is great. And it's a good thing to be. But anyway, let's get to this discussion. I've been thinking a lot about this finale, and I guess the way that I feel about this is everything that happened in this episode, I feel like felt right for what was set up in these 5 episodes. When Daenerys went after the bells rang and she blew down frickin' King's Landing with her dragon, killed all these innocent people, she just had to go. I mean, that was just it. She had to go. I didn't think it was going to be Arya. She'd already killed the Night King. We're not going to give that responsibility to Arya. Otherwise, it would just be too much for that character. It had to be Jon. It was the lover that takes her down and all of this. It makes sense. Pretty much everything that happens in the episode makes sense. Like, even if it comes out of left field and it's shocking in the moment, like, I mean, the big one, I think that almost no one, I'm sure there's somebody, but for the most part, I was shocked that Bran was, the winner of the Game of Thrones, so to speak. That he's the guy who took over the Iron Throne, or whatever it is now, because the Drogon melted it. But that was shocking to me. I did not expect that at all. But after I sat on it, and that's why I didn't record this video immediately, I sat on it, I thought about it for a while, and I think, there's some really great dialogue in this episode. Mostly coming from Tyrion, and one of the the scenes where him and Jon Snow are going back and forth when he comes to visit him when he's in, being held prisoner there. That discussion between them is excellent, man. I absolutely fucking loved their talk there. And you just kind of see Jon trying his best to rationalize what Daenerys has done, just trying to turn a blind eye. He's bent the knee to his queen. He's in love with her. She's family. Like, there's so much conflict going on in his head in that moment, and he's trying everything he can with Tyrion to be like, dude, maybe because of this, and every time she goes somewhere, bad men die, and it's like, these weren't bad men. She fucked up, and Jon tried everything he could. He tried to rationalize it in his head with Tyrion, couldn't do it. Then he went and he freaking, he pleaded with Daenerys there, and he was at her side like, no, this is it. And if she would have been like, you're right, I could see that now, maybe this was too much, I need to back off, I think he would have let it. He went to every extent that he could, and when he realized that she was going to do what she was going to do, and there was no turning back, and that she didn't even have remorse, that she actually thought what she did was good. I mean, she knew that only her. She was talking like a full-on tyrant. I mein, she's like, only I know what's good. Anyone else just doesn't know what's good. I know what's good. Sounds like someone I know. I won't say anything. I ain't getting political on here. But, it just feels like that. And he was just like, I can't. Like, he exhausted every avenue that he could come up with to try to save her, and he just couldn't do it. And it was just... When he kissed her, I was not expecting him to kill her in that moment. Not right then. So when I heard the knife enter, I was like, holy shit! Like, I actually gasped out loud. I was like, holy shit! Like, and there she went. And oh man, when Drogon comes down... and I'm jumping ahead here because this whole opening is fucking fantastic. Like, the silence, the eerie silence of Tyrion and Jon and everyone walking through the rubble, looking, and the first thing we see, of course, to kind of drive it home of what monstrous act she just committed, there's a dead, burnt child laying there, like, all on its own. Like, they did that to, like, really nail it home. Like, this chick fucked up and murdered children. Like, don't forget here, for anybody who's kind of on her side right now, look at what she did. This is not okay. But just Tyrion walking through, and then Tyrion finding Jaime and Cersei, and so fucking heartbreaking. You can hate Cersei all you want. You can think that her demise was lame and she should have been, strung up on a rack and, had Jigsaw go at her and come up with every kind of horrible contraption and torture imaginable, and that Jamie should have stayed with Brienne. This is what I'm talking about. This is expectation and desire versus what you actually get. And I'm not expecting or asking people to just blindly love everything. I never am being that person. If you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fine. But it's desire. That's a big reason. And plus another reason is because people just don't want it to end, and they feel like everything's being rushed too fast past them. And for me, I can agree to an extent. I've said this before. I do agree to an extent that would I've liked this to be longer? Absolutely. George Martin, I've mentioned this in another video. George Martin said that he had 5 other seasons like that he gave them material for, and they all decided no. And you have to remember, like, these people have been, I know I feel like I'm defending the show and all this. I am. So you can think whatever you want on that. Hit fucking unsubscribe, dislike, walk away. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that they've all been working on this show for a decade. That is literally pretty much all any of them have been doing outside of a couple of them. This has been their entire life. These guys want to go off to other things. Contracts were expiring. Things had to get done. And they wrapped it up the best they could in the amount of time they had. And yes, it was a decision, but it was a decision by everyone. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And for people to sit there and say that they half-assed it because they found a water bottle in this scene next to fucking Samuel's foot or a coffee cup in the scene, that's proof. See, they rushed and they don't care. And this bullshit. Bull fucking shit they didn't try. Bullshit. Listen to the cast. Listen to the crew. They were fucking dying. I mean, seriously. Emilia Clarke, she had 2 brain hemorrhages on this show during the time of its running or whatever it was. Brain hemorrhages, right? Yeah. There was all sorts of shit going on. I'm not saying that's from the show, but it's just that there was a lot of effort being put into this show. I mean, look at the Bells episode. Look at the Long Night episode. To think that a 55-night shoot for a battle sequence, the longest ever in recorded history for a film or television series, they half-assed it. Fuck off. Come on. You can find better things than that. Anyway, okay, I'm jumping all over the place. I get frustrated, and like, I want to defend the show because I think, yes, would I have liked it to have 5 more seasons and to flesh things out more? Sure. But I always go under the rule that if I'm left wanting more, for the most part, I find that a fine thing. If I walk out wanting much less or none at all, then that's when I dislike a show or a movie. It's like, oh man, I could have used a lot less of that. Or I could have used that not at all. That was terrible. Like, this is something where it's like, would I have liked to see more, time to let Dany make her turn more organically towards the dark side? As I said, there's a lot of foreshadowing, but to actually see the heel turn kind of slowly progress a little more, I felt like it was there. Yes, it's rushed along a little bit, for sure, but it was gonna happen. This was the story that was going to happen. So for it to be kind of streamlined a little quicker, it doesn't hurt the enjoyment for me, because even though I would have liked to have these moments that were stretched out, in the end, for me, it's all about what transpires, what I got out of it. And what I got out of it in the ending, all of it made sense to me. And kind of getting back to what I was talking about with Bran on the Iron Throne, or Bran as king. When Tyrion brings this up, and he's talking about all of what's good about this, and he's talking about how he essentially pitches them the idea of a republic, that they're all going to pick their new leader. I love the whole scene where Samuel's talking to him, and he's pitching a democracy, and they laugh his ass down. I thought that was pretty fucking hilarious. But yeah, Tyrion pitches this whole idea, and that Bran, that the problems that came from old is that lineage is not the way they should do this. That just because you're related to someone doesn't make you a good ruler. Like, you should have the voice of the 6 realms now that now that they're gonna do this. They have these guys who are coming in and they're going to vote on who's the leader. Now, of course, that can be corrupt. Anything can be corrupt, but Bran can't father children. I'm not really sure if he can or can't. I don't know how that all works, to be honest. I think you could, but I don't know without without a doctor of I don't know. But yeah, he can't father children, so Tyrion says, and that makes him a great candidate in that way. And the fact that he's, the three-eyed raven, that he is void of emotion, that he's not going to go off of things, which can be a bad thing too, because he can be just very logical about things like, oh, well, I see that these people need to be wiped out and that would be better for things. Just like right now, it's probably a good case to be made that if half the people on the earth died, like Thanos thought, that we'd be much better off. And that might be true. And someone who's completely emotionless like him and sees things completely logically might do that. So there is a downside to that. But for the most part, he's not going to come in with these rage of emotions where he's going to do things because he's angry or because he's, spiteful or whatever. So it made sense when he was explaining it to them there at the council. I was like, wow, like, Tyrion, you're right. Like, this is a good pick. Because everyone's like, oh, it's Jon, it's Jon, it's Jon. Jon didn't want it. Jon's ending in this is perfect to me. This is like the best ending possible for Jon. Jon was never really himself. He grew up a bastard. He grew up an outcast in his own family. He was an outcast. Frickin' Catelyn Stark wanted nothing to do with him, wouldn't even look at him. He tries to come say bye to Bran when he's injured and he knows he's going to leave forever and he's probably never going to ever see him again and he's probably going to die. And she's like, get out of here. I can't even fucking look at you. Like, this is what this guy had to grow up with. And he's sent away to essentially a prison where rapists and murderers and all these, terrible people go. And the crime that he committed was being born. And he goes there and man, he gets stabbed by his own people. He gets betrayed in every way. But where does he go and he finds love and he finds freedom? He finds it with the wildlings. He finds it out beyond the wall. And these wildlings, as shown in episode 4, worship him. They think he is the true king of the North, as Tormund Giantsbane says. And to see that Jon goes off and hey, everybody got their ghost and Jon bonding moment, he got back to Ghost. Now, he didn't know that was going to happen, but we did get to see them together, which was great. And the fact that Jon went to go live with the wildlings, went to go live with Tormund, that he went to go live with Ghost out beyond the wall, the true north, where Jon belonged, where Jon felt free, where he was in love with Ygritte and he felt free of everything. Perfect. He never wanted to be king. He wasn't gonna be king after he slaughtered Daenerys. Like, he was the only guy that could get close enough to her to do it. He had to do it. He never wanted the title. Like, it's perfect. His ending, the way he kills Daenerys, this is what I'm saying. Even though it's streamlined, this is the way it was going to happen. They got it right, the story. And this is George R. R. Martin, because he gave them the big moments, and these are what was going to happen anyway. So I'll give a little more credit to George, because I can only imagine these were the destinies he had written out for them. But I love it. I love where they go. I love that Arya didn't go to live with Gendry like, some people probably would want, that she'd be like, oh, I am a lady now. That's not Arya. That's like one of her first fucking bits of dialogue is with Ned Stark telling us, I'm not a lady. And she sticks true to that throughout this whole show. She is a drifter. She's a traveler. She's going to go out, west, and no one knows what's out there. Bran probably does, but no one knows what's out there. She's an explorer. That is her. She's married to the sea. And Sansa had to be at Winterfell. There's always a Stark at Winterfell. That was like the creed. That absolutely had to happen. So the Starks are the Skywalkers of the Game of Thrones franchise. This is like, it's centrically their story. And at the end, it's shown that way. Bran is the leader of, here. Arya's out west, Jon's up north, you know, Sansa's up, mid north. I don't know what they, I don't know what they'd call it now that the wall's down. And people are like, oh, what's the wall there? The wall's essentially a prison. It's a place for people to be banished to. Essentially, Jon is banished. It was either that or death, and they actually did him a huge favor. And Grey Worm's so pissed off. He wants him dead. That's his queen, and they send him off. Oh man, I loved seeing. I didn't even notice, thanks to Travis Gillespie for pointing this out, that one of the kids that was sitting there at that council meeting was the Moondor kid that's sucking his mom's tit. I was like, holy shit! Tyen. I can't remember his name right now. Doesn't matter. But I was like, holy shit, that's him? Oh wow, that was like the realization. I can't talk about Endgame. It's probably spoilers. No, I won't say that. But there was a cameo in there at the end of the movie that I was not expecting at all. After I saw it and I was thinking about it, I was like, who was that? And I'm like, oh my god, it's this person. But yeah, that was great to see him. There's so many great moments in this. Tyrion having to be the hand of the king and rectify all the mistakes that he's made, that he's going to spend the rest of his life trying to fix all the fuck-ups that he did. Perfect ending for him. So yeah, like people hating on this, as I said, I think it's desire. I think, we've already talked about plenty of other things. We're not going to keep going back to those things, but I do think that it's like, I wanted Jon king, or I wanted Daenerys to live and take over. Like, I want. And it's like, I don't know, man. I let the story unfold. I really think everything made perfect sense. This is a much happier ending than I think that Game of Thrones would have been expected to have, because it almost felt like Return of the King at the end. If you've ever seen Return of the King, there's like a 50-minute ending. Because for me, essentially, once the bells happened, like once the bells ended, and we led into the Iron Throne episode 6, really it was just, who's going to kill Daenerys, and then what is everyone's fate going to be? That's what we got. I mean, I don't really know much more of what was going to happen here. But I guess, yeah, people want some big, huge thing. It's the episode, like the big, huge thing happened in episode 5. Daenerys' turn. How much bigger do you want than that? That's fucking craziness. So, and Jon killing her is wild. I mean, we kind of expected it a little bit, but I don't know. Okay, I'm rambling at this point. My favorite shot in the entire fucking franchise, I think, is in this. When Daenerys is coming out to talk to her Unsullied, who are like eerily silent and just hitting their spears on the ground, and then Dothraki are like riding wild men in the background. And you kind of see, the differences between them. But like when Daenerys is walking towards them and Drogon's in the background, and it looks like Daenerys has wings, and she's like the dragon woman, the dragon lady, the mother of dragons in that moment. I would love to have that like screenshot poster. That is fucking gorgeous, man. Holy shit, did I love that. Yeah, it was good to see Yara. It was great to see all these characters that I was like, Brienne goes and writes Jaime's eulogy, his story to pass on. She gives him a very fitting story there at the end. He died protecting his queen. She could have said anything. She could have wrote down anything. That's what's crazy about history, is like history is written by the victors, but it's also written by biased people, and whoever writes that's kind of going to be their history. I mean, who's gonna disagree if they weren't there? So you got your text, and she could have been the hurt person who was angry with him for leaving her, but she forgave him, and she gave him the conclusion that made him look like a great man, that overcame a lot of bad things. So anyway, all right, what else? I think I mostly touched on everything. I know there's going to be a lot of hate in the comments. And that's fine. You know, I've seen people on my comments on the other videos. Very rare, though. Honestly, you guys have been fucking fantastic. I've gotten so much love from people on my channel. I think that, honestly, this is something I will give myself credit for here. I hope this to be true, so I hope this rings true. But I feel like the people who subscribe to me for the most part, and the reason that they like my channel, is because I genuinely enjoy things, because I try to find the good in things, and I feel like I attract similar, like-minded people. I had a great conversation with Tony Crespo that I met from Killer Flicks. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. About this, about the toxic fandom of people who are hating on Star Wars, and people who hate on Brie Larson, and fucking the new Batwoman trailer, and Robert Pattinson's Batman, and this new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer, and it's just like one outrage after the other, after the other, after the other. It's like, fuck, dude. If you hate shit so much, then stop watching stuff. Or go find something that's fucking comforting to you. But Jesus Christ, does the whole internet have to explode with hatred and petitions and, you know, fights? Ugly fights attacking fucking actors and directors and writers, especially the creators. It always does. That's what pisses me off. Is in the end, you can take George Lucas, Peter Jackson, you know, Benioff and Weiss, these people who have brought these amazing franchises into a medium that you love. You know, whether it be Star Wars, the Lord of the Rings films, or, you know, the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, all the way up till season 7 or whatever it was for you guys. And then they're the ones that they tear down. Like the people who brought it to and put them all that work in there, brought it to the forefront, brought it to something that you love. Those are the people you attack. Those are the people who you're like, oh, Benioff and Weiss, Dumb and Dumber. This wouldn't have this fucking show if it wasn't for them. They went to George R.R. Martin, had a lunch with him, had to talk him into doing it. Other people have done it. They got him to do it. They made this show amazing. This is what you got into this show for. And now all I have to hear is how much they suck? Come on, have some fucking respect. You might not have liked this season, but Jesus Christ. Anyway, it sucks. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I posted. I'm so glad that this season's over, because that shit actually took some of my enjoyment out of this. Because I went to go have positive conversations, fun talks, even with people who disagree, just to talk about things. And shit gets ugly so fucking fast that you're like, I don't even want to talk about this. They're actually hurting something that I'm enjoying, that I'm loving. That's so lame. So anyways, I know I sound like a crying baby bitch, and you can fucking blast me in the comments all you want for being so. I really don't give a shit. But I enjoyed every episode of this show, all 8 seasons. I am so fucking thankful to everyone in the cast and the crew. Coffee cups, water bottles, all included. Mistakes happen. My fucking favorite film, Halloween, I can point out tons of fuck-ups like that. Lord of the Rings, you can see tire tracks in the background. You can see shit. It happens. It's not real. Okay, there's gonna be things that are fucked up. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. This show is amazing. It gave you so many great episodes, so many great seasons, and to shit on it like you have is rather embarrassing as a fandom. So anyway, guys, it's a longer video, but it's the end. What can I say? It was a fucking wild ride. I hope that they make the prequel, but honestly, and this is what sucks, look at what happened with Star Wars. They were releasing one a year. Then they released one after 5 months. And because The Last Jedi got so much hate, and Solo bombed because of the hate for The Last Jedi and a bunch of people not wanting to go see Solo because they were so mad at Disney, they were like, fuck it, we're taking years away. We're gonna take a break for 3 years. And I'm honestly not 100% sure this prequel show with Naomi Watts will even happen now. With the toxic fandom towards Game of Thrones, are they really gonna want to invest X amount of millions of dollars in a show? A bunch of people will be like, oh no, they burnt me before. I'm not getting into this show because I don't want to watch the ending. Look what they'll do to me. I won't be surprised if we never get another Game of Thrones show because of this backlash. You're just hurting yourself. You're shooting yourself in the fucking foot. You're taking away content that may have been amazing. A new show where they weren't grounded by any work that was unfinished. Remember that. George R. R. Martin had years to finish these books, and he didn't. He could have laid this out for them, and he didn't. I'm not blaming George R. R. Martin. He brought this to us. I fucking bow to the guy's feet. He is an amazing writer, and he's done some amazing shit, and I appreciate it heavily. But there are other factors at play here that you might just not want to see. That all being said, guys, thank you for joining me. I will get back to Slasher Sunday now. I've been focusing on Game of Thrones on these nights. I also watch Barry as well on Sundays, but now that's all over with, so I can get back to Slasher Sunday. So until then, guys, thank you for this journey. What a great show, and thank you to everyone who's been super positive or negative, but maturely. All right, guys, good night.